Today, folks, we're going to be sitting down for a few minutes to rank the Cybermen episodes of New Who, and that is right, I'm not going to be touching the classics here simply because I haven't seen all the 70s and 80s episodes, so that will have to be a separate video later down the line when I catch up on those. The second thing I want you to know is that this is entirely my opinion. Your view and your ranking of these episodes almost certainly won't line up with mine, and that is absolutely okay as long as we both accept that and have fun with this list. The third thing I want you to know is that what I constitute as a Cyberman story might be different from what you constitute as a Cyberman story, so you might end up with more Cybermen episodes on your list than I do on mine, just because I basically view it as if there is enough of the Cybermen in this story, if they feel like a very crucial part to the events happening, then it counts to me as a Cybermen episode. But if they're in it for a 30-second cameo, I'm not going to qualify that. Also, I want you to know that I count two-part episodes as a single episode, and they will only be taking up one spot on this list, and most importantly of all, there are spoilers for all the Cybermen episodes in this ranking, so if you don't want that, please leave now. And with all that established, this leaves us with 7 episodes to rank, so without further ado, let's get started. While not an awful episode, Nightmare in Silver does feel bogged down by how much it has going on. It feels like this could be a really strong story if it was given 2 parts and had some of the elements removed from it. It feels like it's just got a ton of stuff crammed in here, and having all this stuff crammed together just doesn't entirely work. There is some great stuff that Matt Smith showcases in his acting, which can be slightly over the top in this, but in like the best way possible. And this isn't a perfect episode, but it is somewhat enjoyable, if relatively uneven on the whole. This is an episode that does seem to get a lot of crap, and I kind of get why. It's just kind of there. It's relatively enjoyable, it's kind of fun, it's also kind of goofy, it's also kind of unnecessary, but I kind of do like the stuff going on here a little bit, where Matt Smith is going on basically his last adventure before the Wedding River Song, the finale for Series 6. And you know what, Craig is an enjoyable presence, and the stuff works relatively well on the whole. It's an enjoyable episode, but it's not the most memorable one, but I had fun watching it. Rise of the Cybermen / The Age of Steel, the introduction to the Cybermen for the modern era, and it works well. This episode just, for some reason, doesn't quite gel with me the perfect way. It's good, it's enjoyable, it works, it is a good Cyberman story, and I should be a sucker for this because I love alternate realities so much, but for some reason this one doesn't completely click with me, and I'm not quite sure why that is, but there is some good stuff in here. The way everything's balanced with the alternate world and our characters getting introduced to it, it does work well. And obviously Rose's dad, Pete Tyler, is in this, and he is used well. And there's just a bunch of elements that, for the most part, work well as an introduction to the Cybermen, even if there are some more goofy things like the villain that don't work quite as well. But on the whole, it's a solid episode. I just have a softness for the Next Doctor. It's a very enjoyable and pretty well put together Cybermen story. Cybermen aren't used that, I guess, well in this episode. I mean, they're just kind of there, and this is one of that episodes where, oh, the Cybermen are just kind of there. They don't feel like a particularly menacing threat. But what makes the episode is Jackson Lake as, well, the Doctor. It's all those elements are so fun, and it just is so much fun seeing him think he is the Doctor. That's such a cool idea and really well realized, and David Tennant is great in this one, in one of his final episodes, and there's just something about this episode that's a little bit indescribable that makes it a little bit more than the sum of its parts, and I find myself really enjoying this one. And to this day, I think the idea, when I was a kid, I thought that was a future incarnation of the Doctor we were seeing, being introduced right here. And to this day, I genuinely think it would be so cool if you introduced the Doctor before their regeneration. Say, if Jodie Whittaker had showed up at some point in Peter Capaldi's run, and we had seen her Doctor, and then later the Doctor regenerated into her. Same way that in The Day of the Doctor, we saw Peter Capaldi's eyebrows before we actually saw Peter Capaldi after being regenerated by Matt Smith. So, you know, that's just something I would really love to see happen. It's not that important. It's just a thing that this episode makes me thinking about. Even though I have a softness for the Next Doctor, Dark Water and Death in Heaven just barely edges it for me. This is a solid finale. This is basically almost tied for my least favorite new series finale. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it is legitimately good. There is some legitimately good stuff with Missy in this one. There's our great reveals at the end of the episode with the Cybermen coming back and with Missy. And that's all handled really well. And I enjoy seeing the dynamic of Peter Capaldi playing against Michelle Gomez. And Michelle Gomez makes a great version of the Master in Missy. And I just think this is a solid story. The conclusion has some weaker aspects to it. The second half, Death in Heaven, is not quite as good. There's some things that don't quite work. And even in Dark Water, the way Danny just suddenly dies is, you know, a good way to have someone die. And I like the stuff that they did with Danny Pink. That was all very interesting. But the woman on the phone saying the car just came out of nowhere, it does feel a bit off. And I can roll with it, but there's some things throughout the story that just don't quite click with me the way that other finales do. But legitimately, this is a solid conclusion to this season, and while there are some elements that don't quite work, on the whole is a good story that is really brought up by our Doctor and by Clara and by Missy, and just all of these things working well together to create what I thought was an enjoyable finale, if far from the best. World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls. This is a fantastic episode. These last two are both excellent. Some of the best modern era Doctor Who on the planet. Those bottom five were ranging levels of quite solid to enjoyable, but these top two are just fantastic. This is how the Cybermen should be portrayed, and this is how to tell a fantastic story. If I was basing this purely off the quality of how the Cybermen were portrayed, this would easily be number one, because this portrays the Cybermen like we've never seen them before in the modern era. They are so creepy and so well utilized, and everything with them is great. Seeing Bill go down there and seeing these Cybermen and being turned into a Cyberman is such a shocking and horrible way to end that first part, but it's brilliant. And the way that she just gets murdered off the start of the episode is just shocking, honestly. And it was unfortunate that they spoiled John Sims' return as the Master, but still a fantastic return. And I have to be honest, going into this episode, watching this episode, I did not understand that Razor was the Master until the very end, just before he revealed it. So I thought they did a pretty good job with the makeup and all that stuff, and genuinely, that surprised me. Yeah. And the second half is almost as great. It's fantastic the way that everything comes together and concludes this season, and just there's a great speech by Peter Capaldi just saying to be kind, and it's brilliant. And the Masters just reject him, and the Masters killing themselves is genius. That is a fantastic move. I love that so much. I can't express that. And there's just so much about the story that we're excited to go on, but only talking about it for 2 minutes. This is all I can really say. This is a fantastic story. Incredible utilization of the Cybermen. Incredible utilization of the Masters and the Doctor and Bill. And it's just brilliant. Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Wow. This one, I mean, these two are close, but this one just edges it out for me. And simply put, it hits me more than the other episode does. Emotionally, that ending is brilliant and emotional, and it makes me cry basically every time. And it's so sad, it's so tragic, it's so heartbreaking. The incredible score, the Doctor burning a supernova just to say goodbye. It's absolutely heartbreaking and brilliantly written and wonderfully executed. And even that first part is fantastic. The way everything is introduced with the ghosts, with Torchwood, the way all these elements play out, the way that even that Jackie is playing Rose for this episode, that's kind of funny. And just the way that all these elements come together in what I find to be an incredibly heartbreaking finale to the 10th Doctor's first season and the conclusion of Rose's story. And all of that is just handled so well. And honestly, what does tip this one over the edge is the ending. If the Doctor Falls, the ending to the Doctor Falls hit me the way the ending to Doomsday did, that one would top it. But this one just so well handled. There's so much. The reveal of the sphere, the cult of Skaro appearing with the Daleks. Just so much about this story. Brilliantly executed. So much that works. I am in love with this episode. It's one of my very favorite episodes of Doctor Who. And so is The World Enough Time the Doctor Falls. But this one just slightly edges it, just because it just connects with me more emotionally. And God, it's just brilliant. And I am in awe with this finale. It is possibly the greatest Doctor Who finale of all time. But I'm not going to say that for certain. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, if I was basing this purely off of how the Cybermen were portrayed, I have to say World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, would kick it up that extra notch. But just on the quality of the episodes alone, Doomsday and Army of Ghosts has got the edge. And yeah, I'm curious to know, what are your rankings of the Cybermen episodes? Are there some that I didn't include that you are shocked by? I can't really imagine, unless somehow I forgot one, but that's a little unlikely, as I did go through a list to make sure I had all the Cybermen episodes. Yeah, what is your ranking of these episodes? What is your favorite? What's your least favorite? It's not that many episodes, so feel free to rank it down below. I would be very interested to see what you have to say. But that's gonna do it for now, folks. I have lots of Doctor Who videos already up on the channel, many classic reviews, a couple of other rankings for Season 1 of Doctor Who, Series 11 of Doctor Who, Chris Chibnall episodes of Doctor Who, if any of that stuff is of interest to you. And also, I did say in the last video, I think, that this was going to be the review of The Crusade, which is incorrect. I recorded that review a while ago, and it just went up, and I wasn't quite aware of my schedule right then. Now I'm more aware, and hopefully that's going to be less of a problem in the future, but it's still going to pop up every now and then. But yeah, The Crusade will be next Sunday. That's the new for now, folks. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you again this coming Sunday with my review of The Crusade, but if not, that's totally cool. I just appreciate your time here today. With that said, thank you for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.